Imagine you could look down at your veins and see not just blood flowing through them, but a blueprint for your destiny. The thought seems absurd, pseudoscientific at best. Yet in laboratories across Tokyo, New York, and Helsinki, researchers are discovering patterns so consistent in data, so compelling that it has left some of the most skeptical scientists questioning their fundamental understanding of human potential. We always knew blood types influenced certain health outcomes, says Dr. Patricia Flores, hematologist at Massachusetts General Hospital. But success patterns, career trajectories, interpersonal dynamics, that was supposed to be sociological territory, not biochemical. I was trained to dismiss such correlations. She pauses, turning a folder of data in her hands. Then the Helsinki study happened. The Helsinki study. Few outside specialized research circles have heard of it. Fewer still understand its implications. But what began as a routine investigation into cardiovascular health markers ended with a discovery that some believe could redraw the map of human potential, and others fear could create a new form of discrimination more insidious than any we have seen before. This is not about mysticism or horoscopes. This is about peer-reviewed research that major institutions have been quietly expanding upon for over a decade. This is about why certain blood types appear disproportionately among Fortune 500 CEOs, Olympic medalists, and academic overachievers. This is about why your AB-negative friend might process stress differently than your O-positive colleague, and why that matters more than we ever imagined. Before we dive into the science that connects the invisible markers in your bloodstream to patterns of achievement, let me be clear, what follows is not deterministic. Your blood type does not limit what you can accomplish, but understanding its influence might be the key to optimizing how you approach your goals. And that knowledge, according to some researchers, is exactly what certain powerful institutions would prefer remained obscure. Blood type science exists in this strange tension, explains behavioral economist Dr. Marcus Novak. It is simultaneously one of the most documented areas of medical research and one of the most dismissed correlation studies in success metrics. The question is why. That question, that why, is where our story begins. Blood types were discovered in 1901 by Karl Landsteiner, who identified the ABO system and later received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for his work. The seemingly simple distinction between types A, B, AB, and O, plus the rhesus factor that gives us the positive or negative designation, has profound implications for transfusion medicine and transplant compatibility. But the story extends far beyond medical emergencies. What Landsteiner could not have anticipated was how these blood markers would correlate with patterns of behavior, cognitive processing, and even career outcomes across diverse populations. Dr. Elena Yamamoto at Tokyo University's Department of Integrated Biosciences explains, blood type is not just about antigens on red blood cells. It represents a complex interplay of genetic factors that influence everything from gut microbiome composition to neurotransmitter efficiency and inflammatory response patterns. These biological foundations create subtle but measurable differences in how individuals process stress, recover from exertion, and even how they approach problem solving. The Japanese have long incorporated blood type awareness into their culture, using it as a personality indicator similar to how Western societies might reference astrological signs. This cultural acceptance allowed for earlier and more extensive research into blood type correlations. Western researchers initially dismissed the Japanese studies as culturally biased, continues Dr. Yamamoto. The assumption was that Japanese people behaved differently according to blood type because they expected to, a self-fulfilling prophecy. But then we started conducting double-blind studies where neither researchers nor subjects knew blood types until after data collection. The correlations persisted. Those correlations began to tell an interesting story. Type A individuals consistently showed advantages in precision tasks requiring attention to detail and planning. Type B individuals demonstrated greater cognitive flexibility and adaptation to changing circumstances. Type AB, the rarest group, displayed unusual combinations of traits that seemed particularly advantageous in creative problem-solving and multidisciplinary thinking. And type O, the most common, showed remarkable stress resilience and recovery metrics. Professor Michael Chong at Stanford's Behavioral Sciences Department initially set out to disprove these correlations. "I was convinced it was pseudoscience," he admits. "My research team designed what we believed would be the definitive debunking, a multi-year study controlling for cultural background, socio-economic factors, education level, and familial expectations." His expression shifts to one of bewilderment. "Instead, we ended up contributing some of the strongest evidence for blood type influence on cognitive processing and stress response." The Chong study, published in 2015 but largely ignored by mainstream scientific discourse, showed that regardless of background, type O individuals recovered from acute stress with measurably different cortisol curves than other types. Type A subjects processed visual information with greater accuracy but less speed than Type B participants. Type AB showed the most unusual processing patterns, combinations that should have been contradictory but somehow worked synergistically. "What made these findings particularly striking," explains Chong, "was that these weren't just one-time measurements. These were consistent patterns observed over thousands of data points across diverse populations." Still, correlation is not causation. The question remained, was blood type causing these differences, or merely associated with them? That is where Dr. Nadia Volkov enters our story. A neurobiochemist specializing in the blood-brain barrier, Dr. Volkov had no interest in blood type research until an anomaly in her data forced her to reconsider everything she thought she knew about how blood composition influences cognitive function. "I was investigating how certain proteins cross the blood-brain barrier," Dr. Volkov explains from her laboratory at Johns Hopkins. "We noticed consistent patterns of variance that could not be explained by our controlled variables. On a hunch, I ran a correlation against blood type data we had collected but never utilized. The patterns aligned perfectly. What Dr. Volkov discovered was that certain neurochemical messengers interacted differently with blood type-specific proteins, creating subtle but measurable differences in how signals were processed in the brain. The effect was small, mere milliseconds of difference in processing time, but in high-performance situations where split-second decisions matter, these differences could accumulate into significant advantages. It is not that one blood type is superior," Dr. Volkov emphasizes. "It is that different blood types create different processing environments. Type A might excel in one cognitive domain while Type O might have advantages in another. What fascinates me is how these small biochemical differences ripple outward into measurable behavioral and performance patterns. This ripple effect is what caught the attention of performance psychologist Dr. Peter Franklin. While working with Olympic athletes, Dr. Franklin noticed that certain training protocols produced dramatically different results depending on the athlete's blood type. Type O athletes responded to high-intensity interval training with remarkable recovery curves, he notes. Type A athletes seemed to benefit more from precise, structured training regimens with longer recovery periods. We started adjusting protocols based on blood type and saw performance improvements across the board. This observation led to a question. If blood type influenced how athletes responded to training, could it also impact how students responded to different learning environments, or how professionals responded to different workplace structures? The Helsinki study would provide the first comprehensive answer to that question, and its findings would spark both scientific breakthrough and societal concern. In 2011, the Finnish Institute of Public Health launched what was intended to be a long-term study on cardiovascular health across different demographic groups. Led by Dr. Liisa Korhonen, the study collected extensive data from over 50,000 participants. Blood markers, cognitive assessments, career trajectories, income levels, education achievement, and self-reported measures of life satisfaction. 4 years into the study, a research assistant named Mikko Jarvinen noticed something unusual in the data. When plotting career advancement against blood type, distinct patterns emerged that could not be explained by other variables. Initially, I thought it must be a statistical error, Jarvinen recalls, or perhaps an artifact of Finland's specific cultural context. But when we controlled for every conceivable factor, socioeconomic background, education access, even height and conventional attractiveness metrics that we know influence hiring decisions, the blood type correlations remain significant. What the Helsinki data revealed was both subtle and profound. Type A individuals were overrepresented in fields requiring precision, planning, and adherence to established systems: accounting, engineering, surgical specialties, air traffic control. They advanced steadily in corporate hierarchies but rarely through disruptive innovation. Type B individuals showed greater career variability but demonstrated remarkable ability to capitalize on changing circumstances. They were overrepresented in entrepreneurial success stories involving market adaptation and trend anticipation. They showed greater willingness to change career paths and succeeded more often when doing so. Type AB individuals, though rare in the general population, appeared with statistically significant frequency in multidisciplinary fields requiring integration of disparate knowledge domains, systems architecture, certain medical specialties, and particularly successful research team leaders who could bridge different scientific approaches. Type O individuals showed the most interesting pattern. Their success seemed most influenced by environmental factors. In high-stress environments with clear performance metrics, emergency medicine, crisis management, competitive sales, they significantly outperformed other blood types. In routine, low-stimulation environments, they often underperformed expectations based on their cognitive assessments. The simplistic interpretation would be that certain blood types are better for certain careers, explains Dr. Korhonen. But that would be misunderstanding the data. What we found was that blood type correlates with certain cognitive processing patterns and stress response mechanisms. These, in turn, create different interaction patterns with different environments. It is not deterministic, it is about fit and adaptation. The Helsinki study findings were published in a specialized journal with limited circulation. Despite its robust methodology and significant implications, mainstream scientific publications showed little interest. Major media outlets did not cover the story. The research team found it increasingly difficult to secure funding for follow-up studies. The resistance was puzzling, Dr. Korhonen admits. We had statistical significance, clear methodology, and findings that could potentially help people optimize their educational and career choices based on their physiological predispositions. Yet there seemed to be an active disinterest in pursuing this line of research further. That disinterest might have buried the Helsinki findings entirely if not for Dr. Rajiv Mehta, a neurobiologist at Columbia University who had been conducting parallel research on blood type markers and neurotransmitter efficiency. I stumbled across the Helsinki study while researching something else entirely, Dr. Mehta explains. What struck me immediately was how their sociological findings aligned perfectly with the neurochemical mechanisms my lab had been documenting. Two completely different research approaches arriving at complementary conclusions. That is when science gets really interesting. Dr. Mehta reached out to Dr. Korhonen, and their collaboration led to a more comprehensive investigation. The Transnational Blood Type and Performance Study, which expanded the research to include participants from 12 countries across North America, Europe, and Asia. The results not only confirmed the Helsinki findings but revealed even more specific mechanisms. Type A blood was associated with higher baseline levels of acetylcholine and more efficient acetylcholine receptor function, neurotransmitter systems associated with precision, memory, and attention to detail. Type B correlated with dopamine system variations that favored novelty-seeking and adaptation. Type AB showed unusual combinations of these patterns. Type O individuals demonstrated distinctive cortisol processing and adrenaline response curves that explained their performance advantages under pressure. We were documenting a biochemical basis for performance differences, explains Dr. Mehta. Not massive differences that determine success or failure, but subtle advantages that might explain why certain individuals find themselves gravitating toward and succeeding in different environments. This biochemical foundation helped explain why blood-type correlations transcended cultural contexts. Japanese executives, American entrepreneurs, Finnish engineers, the patterns held across cultures, suggesting something more fundamental than social conditioning at work. But as this research progressed, a troubling pattern emerged within scientific and educational institutions. Funding became increasingly difficult to secure. Publication in top-tier journals faced unusual resistance. Academic appointments for researchers pursuing this line of inquiry became scarce. It was never overt censorship, notes Dr. Korhonen, more like a systematic lack of interest that felt oddly coordinated. The question became, why would potentially valuable insights about human performance optimization face such institutional resistance? The answer, according to some researchers, lies in what the blood type research threatened to disrupt. Billion-dollar industries built around the premise that success is equally accessible to everyone through standardized approaches. Follow the money, suggests Dr. Franklin, who experienced firsthand the institutional resistance to blood type optimization research. The global education industry is worth over $5 trillion. The corporate training sector exceeds $370 billion annually. Both are built on standardized approaches to human development, one-size-fits-all methodologies that claim to work equally well for everyone. Blood type research challenges this fundamental premise. If different physiological types respond optimally to different training approaches, learning environments, and workplace structures, then standardization itself becomes problematic. The most effective systems would be personalized rather than universal. Imagine if schools started customizing education approaches based on blood type and other biomarkers. Continues Dr. Franklin. Suddenly those standardized textbooks, training programs, and assessment tools, representing billions in annual revenue, become much less valuable. Dr. Marcus Novak, who studies the economics of education and workplace optimization, notes another factor. Our entire meritocratic narrative depends on the belief that everyone competes on a level playing field. The idea that different physiological types might have inherent advantages in different domains is politically problematic across the ideological spectrum. This resistance extends beyond academia and education. When Dr. Yamamoto approached major corporate consulting firms with research showing how workspace design and management approaches could be optimized based on team blood type composition, she encountered polite but firm rejection. One senior partner was surprisingly candid, she recalls. He told me, "This research is probably valid, but it creates more problems than it solves for us. Our clients want simple, standardized solutions they can implement across their entire organization. Telling them they need different approaches for different physiological types means more complexity, more customization, and fewer scalable products we can sell them." The pharmaceutical industry has shown similar resistance. Dr. Volkov's research indicating that certain cognitive enhancement medications might work differently depending on blood type faced unusual challenges in publication and funding. The implications are significant, she explains. If blood type influences drug response, it suggests a need for more personalized pharmaceutical approaches. But the current business model depends on developing blockbuster drugs that can be marketed to everyone. Nuance is expensive. Standardization is profitable. Beyond economic factors, there are legitimate ethical concerns about how blood type research might be misused. Historical abuses of biological determinism loom large in scientific memory, from eugenics to racial pseudoscience. Dr. Chong acknowledges these concerns. There is valid worry that blood type correlations could be misused to discriminate or to justify predetermined outcomes. If certain blood types show advantages in specific domains, could that lead to a new form of typing that limits opportunity based on biological factors? These are reasonable concerns that require careful ethical frameworks. Yet many researchers argue that not pursuing knowledge because of how it might be misused represents its own ethical problem. The science exists whether we study it or not, argues Dr. Mehta. The real question is whether we develop this knowledge within ethical frameworks and with transparent public discourse, or whether it happens in proprietary research environments without public oversight. Some researchers have encountered more direct forms of suppression. Dr. Korhonen describes how a major conference presentation on blood type correlations with management style effectiveness was canceled at the last minute without explanation. Dr. Franklin reports having a research grant unexpectedly withdrawn after preliminary findings on blood type and learning optimization were shared with the funding committee. It is never explicit censorship, notes Dr. Franklin. It is always plausibly deniable budget constraints, shifting priorities, concerns about methodology. But the pattern becomes clear when you connect enough dots. Perhaps the most telling resistance comes from the educational technology sector, which has invested billions in artificial intelligence systems designed to personalize learning. When approached about incorporating blood type markers into their personalization algorithms, multiple companies declined. One executive was unusually honest, recalls Dr. Novak. He said, "We have built complex proprietary algorithms that claim to optimize learning based on behavioral data. If something as simple as blood type turns out to be a more powerful predictor of optimal learning approach, that undermines our entire value proposition." This resistance might explain why blood type research remains in a strange scientific limbo, neither definitively debunked nor widely accepted. The evidence exists in peer-reviewed literature but rarely appears in mainstream scientific discourse or public awareness. It is not a conspiracy in the traditional sense, clarifies Dr. Korhonen. It is more like a system-wide alignment of incentives against a particular line of inquiry that threatens established paradigms and business models. For individuals seeking to understand their own potential, this institutional resistance creates a knowledge gap. How might awareness of blood type influences help optimize personal and professional development? What advantages might be accessible if we understood our physiological predispositions better? The answers lie in what the research has revealed about specific blood types and their relationship to different forms of achievement. The research consistently shows distinct patterns for each blood type, not in terms of intelligence or inherent ability, but in how individuals process information, respond to stress, and interact with different environments. These patterns create natural advantages and challenges that can significantly impact achievement in various domains. Type A individuals, representing approximately 34% of the U.S. population, show distinct neurochemical patterns that favor precision, planning, and systematic thinking. The research reveals several key mechanisms. Type A blood correlates with higher baseline acetylcholine levels and receptor efficiency, explains Dr. Mehta. Acetylcholine is crucial for attention to detail, memory formation, and precise motor control. This creates a neurobiological foundation for the enhanced performance we observe in precision-demanding fields. This biochemical foundation translates into measurable performance differences. Type A individuals consistently outperform other types in tasks requiring attention to detail, systematic approaches, and adherence to established protocols. They typically excel in environments with clear structure, defined processes, and methodical progression. In our studies, Type A subjects completed complex sequential tasks with 23% fewer errors than other types, notes Dr. Chong. They performed particularly well when given complete information and clear parameters. However, they showed less effective adaptation when rules changed unexpectedly or when incomplete information required improvisation. This pattern extends to career outcomes. The transnational study found Type A individuals overrepresented in fields like accounting, engineering, surgical specialties, quality control, and systems administration, careers where precision, protocol adherence, and methodical thinking create advantages. Type A individuals also showed distinctive stress response patterns. They experience stress earlier in anticipation of challenges, explains Dr. Franklin. This creates a neurobiological preparation state that enhances precision performance, but can become counterproductive if the anticipatory stress becomes excessive or prolonged. Type B individuals, approximately 10% of the U.S. population, demonstrate neurochemical patterns favoring adaptation, novel thinking, and responsive flexibility. We observe distinctive dopamine system characteristics in Type B individuals, notes Dr. Volkov. Their dopamine receptors and processing pathways show greater activation in response to novelty and change. This creates neurobiological rewards for adaptation and innovation. This biochemical foundation manifests in performance patterns that favor environments requiring flexibility and adaptation. Type B individuals consistently outperform other types when rules change unexpectedly, when systems need to be reimagined, or when connecting disparate ideas creates advantage. In our adaptive problem-solving assessments, Type B subjects identified viable alternative approaches 31% more frequently than other types when established solutions failed, reports Dr. Chong. However, they sometimes struggled with sustained attention to detail in highly repetitive tasks. These patterns appear in career trajectories as well. Type B individuals show higher success rates in entrepreneurship, particularly in rapidly evolving markets. They are overrepresented in fields requiring trend anticipation and adaptation, marketing strategy, creative direction, and business development. They also show greater career mobility, changing roles and industries more frequently and more successfully than other types. Type B stress response patterns are equally distinctive. They show lower anticipatory stress but more acute stress during challenges, explains Dr. Franklin. This creates an adaptive advantage. They enter challenging situations with less performance-inhibiting anxiety, then experience a productive stress response that enhances adaptive thinking. Type AB individuals, the rarest at approximately 4% of the U.S. population, display the most unusual neurochemical patterns, combining elements of both Type A and Type B systems in ways that create unique advantages. The AB neurochemical profile is not simply a blend of A and B characteristics, clarifies Dr. Mehta. It represents a distinct interaction pattern that creates unique processing advantages, particularly in integrating precision with adaptation, something that should be contradictory but somehow functions synergistically in the AB neurophysiology. This unusual biochemistry translates into performance patterns that excel at integrating seemingly contradictory approaches. AB individuals consistently outperform other types in tasks requiring both systematic precision and adaptive thinking. They show particular strength in multidisciplinary contexts where connecting different knowledge domains creates advantage. AB subjects showed remarkable ability to maintain precision while adapting to changing parameters, notes Dr. Chong. In our integrated challenge assessments, they outperformed other types by 27% in scenarios requiring both adherence to critical protocols and creative adaptation to changing conditions. Career patterns reflect these advantages. AB individuals are overrepresented in fields requiring cross-disciplinary integration, systems architecture, certain medical specialties combining research with clinical application, and leadership roles bridging technical and creative domains. They often excel as translators between different professional cultures and knowledge systems. AB stress response patterns show similar integration. They experience moderate anticipatory stress combined with controlled acute stress during challenges, explains Dr. Franklin. This creates a balanced preparation state that enables both careful planning and responsive adaptation. Type O individuals, the most common at approximately 45% of the U.S. population, demonstrate distinctive neurochemical patterns favoring performance under pressure, resilience, and action orientation. Type O correlates with distinctive cortisol processing and adrenaline response curves, explains Dr. Volkov. Their stress hormone systems show faster activation but also faster recovery. This creates a neurobiological foundation for enhanced performance under acute pressure and more efficient recovery afterward. This biochemistry manifests in performance patterns excelling in high-pressure, time-sensitive environments. Type O individuals consistently outperform other types in scenarios requiring rapid decision-making with incomplete information, sustained performance under pressure, and quick recovery between challenges. In our high-pressure simulation assessments, Type O subjects maintained effective decision quality under extreme time constraints 29% longer than other types, reports Dr. Chong. However, they sometimes showed less effective performance in low stimulation, routine environments. Career outcomes reflect these patterns. Type O individuals are overrepresented in fields where performance under pressure creates advantage: emergency medicine, crisis management, competitive sales, emergency response, and certain military specialties. They often gravitate toward roles with variable intensity and clear performance metrics. Type O stress response patterns are particularly distinctive. They show lower anticipatory stress but more efficient acute stress response, notes Dr. Franklin. Their systems activate powerful performance enhancement during challenges but return to baseline more quickly afterward. This creates both a performance advantage under pressure and a recovery advantage between challenges. Beyond the primary ABO system, the rhesus factor, positive or negative, adds another layer of correlation. Rhesus-negative individuals, representing approximately 15% of the U.S. population, show some distinctive patterns across all blood types. Rhesus-negative blood correlates with subtle differences in immune function and certain neurotransmitter systems, explains Dr. Mehta. These create measurable differences in sensory processing sensitivity and environmental responsiveness. This manifests in performance patterns showing greater sensitivity to environmental factors. Rhesus-negative individuals consistently demonstrate stronger performance effects, both positive and negative, based on their surroundings. They typically show enhanced performance in optimized environments but may be more vulnerable to suboptimal conditions. Rhesus-negative subjects showed 18% greater performance improvement when environmental conditions were optimized for their cognitive preferences, notes Dr. Chong. However, they also showed 23% greater performance degradation in mismatched environments. These patterns suggest rhesus-negative individuals may benefit most from environmental customization, physical workspace design, communication approaches, and management styles aligned with their processing preferences. It is important to emphasize that these patterns represent statistical correlations, not deterministic outcomes. Within each blood type, there is significant individual variation. Moreover, blood type is just one of many factors influencing cognitive processing and performance patterns. The research does not suggest blood type determines success or capability, emphasizes Dr. Korhonen. Rather, it indicates that different physiological types have different natural advantages that can be leveraged through awareness and appropriate environmental design. This nuanced understanding points toward the most valuable application of blood type research: personalized optimization strategies that align with natural physiological tendencies. How might individuals use blood type awareness to optimize their approach to education, career, and personal development? The research suggests several practical applications that work with rather than against natural tendencies. For Type A individuals, the research indicates strategies leveraging their natural precision and systematic thinking. Type A individuals typically benefit from front-loaded planning processes, explains Dr. Franklin. Their performance improves when they can prepare thoroughly and understand complete systems before proceeding. Their natural anticipatory stress becomes productive rather than limiting when channeled into comprehensive preparation. Educational optimization for Type A might include structured learning environments with clear progression paths, comprehensive materials provided in advance, and assessment methods rewarding precision and thoroughness. Their learning typically benefits from systematic approaches building foundation before application. Career optimization might involve roles leveraging analytical precision, quality control, and systematic thinking. Workplace environments with clear structures, defined processes, and methodical approaches typically enhance their natural strengths. Management approaches providing comprehensive information and clear expectations generally produce better outcomes than high-ambiguity leadership styles. Stress management strategies effective for Type A often focus on channeling anticipatory stress into productive preparation rather than attempting to eliminate it entirely. Mindfulness practices emphasizing acceptance rather than suppression of anticipatory thinking show particular benefit. The key insight for Type A optimization is working with rather than against the anticipatory system, notes Dr. Chong. Attempting to eliminate planning and systematic thinking creates resistance. Channeling these tendencies into productive preparation leverages natural strengths. For Type B individuals, optimization strategies typically leverage their natural adaptability and novel thinking. Type B individuals generally benefit from flexible frameworks rather than rigid structures, explains Dr. Franklin. Their performance improves when they have room to adapt approaches and connect disparate elements. Their natural novelty seeking becomes productive when it can be applied to finding alternative pathways and innovative solutions. Educational optimization for Type B might include more adaptive learning environments allowing exploration of multiple approaches, assessment methods rewarding innovation and alternative solutions, and opportunities to apply concepts across different contexts. Their learning typically benefits from understanding the why behind systems rather than just memorizing processes. Career optimization might involve roles leveraging adaptability, trend recognition, and innovative problem-solving. Workplace environments encouraging exploration of alternatives and rewarding adaptive thinking typically enhance their natural strengths. Management approaches providing clear outcomes while allowing flexibility in methods generally produce better results than rigid process enforcement. Stress management strategies effective for Type B often focus on maintaining engagement through variety and novel challenges rather than routine. Physical activities involving adaptation and responsiveness, such as team sports or martial arts, show particular benefit for stress regulation. The key insight for Type B optimization is creating productive channels for adaptability, notes Dr. Chong. Attempting to force rigid adherence to single approaches creates resistance. Providing clear outcomes while allowing flexible pathways leverages natural strengths. For Type AB individuals, optimization strategies typically integrate precision and adaptability in balanced approaches. AB individuals generally benefit from frameworks that honor both systematic and adaptive elements, explains Dr. Franklin. Their performance improves when they can maintain critical precision while adapting non-critical elements. Their unusual ability to integrate seemingly contradictory approaches becomes productive when given appropriate contexts for expression. Educational optimization for AB might include learning environments balancing structure with exploration, assessment methods rewarding both precision and innovation, and opportunities to integrate different knowledge domains. Their learning typically benefits from understanding both detailed mechanics and broader contextual applications. Career optimization might involve roles requiring integration of precision and adaptation, strategic planning, systems architecture, and multidisciplinary leadership. Workplace environments supporting both analytical rigor and innovative thinking typically enhance their natural strengths. Management approaches that clearly distinguish between non-negotiable protocols and areas open for innovation generally produce better outcomes than approaches emphasizing either rigid compliance or unbounded creativity. Stress management strategies effective for AB often focus on balancing preparation with responsiveness. Practices integrating structure with adaptability, such as improvisational music within established frameworks, show particular benefit. The key insight for AB optimization is honoring both systematic and adaptive elements, notes Dr. Chong. Forcing exclusive emphasis on either precision or innovation creates resistance. Supporting integrated approaches leverages their unique neurobiological advantages. For Type O individuals, optimization strategies typically leverage their pressure performance and recovery efficiency. Type O individuals generally benefit from appropriately calibrated challenge levels, explains Dr. Franklin. Their performance improves in environments providing clear performance metrics and meaningful pressure. Their efficient stress response system becomes productive when given appropriate activation and recovery cycles. Educational optimization for Type O might include more dynamic learning environments with appropriate time constraints, assessment methods involving performance under meaningful pressure, and clear feedback loops. Their learning typically benefits from active application under realistic conditions rather than passive absorption of information. Career optimization might involve roles leveraging performance under pressure, decisive action with incomplete information, and recovery resilience. Workplace environments providing appropriately variable intensity and clear performance metrics typically enhance their natural strengths. Management approaches establishing meaningful challenges with clear success parameters generally produce better outcomes than approaches emphasizing either routine consistency or constant high pressure without recovery. Stress management strategies effective for Type O often focus on appropriate challenge recovery cycles rather than stress elimination. Physical activities involving intensity intervals, such as high-intensity interval training, show particular benefit for stress regulation. The key insight for Type O optimization is appropriate challenge calibration, notes Dr. Chong. Both insufficient challenge and unrelenting pressure without recovery create suboptimal conditions. Providing meaningful challenges with appropriate recovery leverages their unique stress response advantages. For all blood types, the rhesus factor suggests additional optimization considerations. Rhesus-negative individuals typically benefit from greater environmental customization, explains Dr. Franklin. Their performance shows stronger responses to environmental factors, both positive and negative. This environmental sensitivity becomes productive when surroundings align with their processing preferences. This might include more careful attention to physical workspace design, communication approaches, and sensory elements of their environment. Rhesus-negative individuals often benefit from greater control over their working conditions and more intentional management of environmental factors. The key insight for rhesus factor consideration is environmental impact awareness, notes Dr. Chong. Rhesus-positive individuals generally maintain more consistent performance across varying conditions. Rhesus-negative individuals typically show greater performance variation based on environmental alignment. These optimization strategies raise important ethical considerations. If blood type influences optimal approaches, how should educational and organizational systems respond? Should environments be segregated by blood type? Should different types receive different training? How do we balance personalization with equal opportunity? Dr. Korhonen offers perspective. The ethical approach is not segregation but optionality and awareness. When people understand their own physiological tendencies, they can make informed choices about environments and approaches. Organizations can provide multiple pathways rather than forcing everyone through identical systems. This approach aligns with broader movements toward personalization in education and professional development. Rather than creating blood type segregated systems, the research suggests creating multiple pathways that accommodate different physiological tendencies, allowing individuals to gravitate toward approaches aligned with their natural strengths. The goal is not to limit anyone based on blood type, emphasizes Dr. Mehta. It is to expand options and awareness so everyone can optimize their approach based on their unique physiological profile, blood type being just one factor among many. This personalized optimization approach represents the most promising application of blood type research, not as a deterministic limitation but as a tool for self-awareness and environmental design that works with rather than against natural tendencies. The blood type research ultimately challenges our fundamental understanding of human potential and success. It suggests we have been operating with an incomplete map of human variation, one that recognizes differences in interests, backgrounds, and personalities, but overlooks physiological diversity in how our brains and bodies process information and stress. Our educational and organizational systems are built on an assumption of physiological uniformity that the research simply does not support, explains Dr. Novak. We design standardized approaches assuming everyone processes information and stress in fundamentally the same way. The blood type research adds to mounting evidence that this assumption is flawed. This flawed assumption has consequences. When we create one-size-fits-all systems, we inevitably optimize for certain physiological types while creating disadvantages for others. We misattribute success and failure to effort or ability when environmental fit might be the more significant factor. The standardized approach creates hidden winners and losers based on physiological alignment, continues Dr. Novak. Those whose natural processing patterns match the standardized environment appear naturally talented. Those whose patterns conflict with the environment appear to lack aptitude, when the real issue might be environmental mismatch rather than capability. This insight reframes our understanding of success itself. Perhaps achievement is less about inherent ability or effort alone, and more about alignment between physiological tendencies and environmental demands. Perhaps the most successful individuals are not simply the most talented or hardworking, but those who, consciously or unconsciously, found or created environments aligned with their natural processing patterns. The most profound implication is that human potential might be dramatically underutilized in our current systems, suggests Dr. Korhonen. If we're forcing significant portions of the population to work against their physiological grain, we're not seeing what they're truly capable of accomplishing in optimized conditions. This perspective reframes educational and organizational design challenges. Instead of asking how to make everyone succeed in standardized systems, we might ask how to create multiple pathways accommodating different physiological types. Instead of treating environmental preferences as mere personal taste, we might recognize them as reflections of meaningful physiological differences. The blood type research connects to broader scientific developments supporting physiological diversity in human cognition and performance. From chronobiology research on circadian types to sensory processing sensitivity studies, evidence increasingly suggests that human physiology varies in ways that meaningfully impact optimal function. We're moving toward a more nuanced understanding of human diversity, notes Dr. Mehta. Beyond the visible differences we've long recognized, we're mapping physiological variations that influence how people process information, respond to environments, and perform under different conditions. Blood type appears to be one marker of these deeper physiological differences. This evolving understanding may ultimately transform how we approach human development and organizational design. Rather than forcing physiological conformity to standardized systems, we might create more flexible environments accommodating diverse physiological needs, potentially unlocking previously constrained human potential. The most exciting possibility is not just optimizing for known blood types, suggests Dr. Franklin. It's developing systems flexible enough to accommodate all forms of physiological diversity, creating conditions where everyone can work with rather than against their natural tendencies. This vision represents a fundamental shift from standardization toward personalization, not based on preference alone, but on meaningful physiological differences that influence optimal function. It suggests a future where success becomes less about forcing adaptation to rigid systems and more about creating environments that leverage natural human diversity. The blood type research thus points toward a broader reconsideration of human potential itself. Perhaps our capabilities are not fixed qualities we either possess or lack, but dynamic expressions that emerge from the interaction between our physiological tendencies and our environments. Perhaps the key to unlocking greater human achievement lies not in standardizing approaches but in embracing and accommodating our physiological diversity. The most profound implication is that we may have been measuring and developing human potential using incomplete metrics, concludes Dr. Korhonen. If we've been ignoring how physiological diversity influences optimal function, we've been missing crucial variables in our understanding of human capability. This reframing of human potential represents both challenge and opportunity. It challenges institutional systems built on assumptions of physiological uniformity. It questions standard metrics for evaluating ability and effort. but it also offers the opportunity to create more effective development approaches aligned with natural human diversity, potentially unlocking capabilities currently constrained by environmental mismatch. The blood type research thus invites us to reconsider not just how we understand success, but how we might redesign our systems to better accommodate human diversity and unlock previously constrained potential. As we reach the conclusion of our exploration, we return to the question that began our journey. Why would information about blood type correlations with success patterns face institutional resistance? Why would powerful interests prefer this knowledge remained obscure? The answer may lie in what the blood type research ultimately reveals: that our standardized systems of education, professional development, and performance evaluation are built on a fundamentally flawed premise. They assume physiological uniformity where meaningful diversity exists. They attribute success and failure to ability and effort while overlooking the crucial role of environmental fit with physiological tendencies. This insight threatens institutional systems built on standardization. It challenges billion-dollar industries selling one-size-fits-all development approaches. It complicates neat meritocratic narratives about success reflecting pure effort and ability rather than environmental alignment with physiological tendencies. But for individuals seeking to optimize their own development and performance, this research offers something powerful: the opportunity to work with rather than against their natural physiological grain. To understand that certain struggles might reflect environmental mismatch rather than personal deficiency. To make informed choices about environments and approaches aligned with their natural tendencies. The most empowering application of this research is not using blood type to limit possibilities, but to optimize pathways, explains Dr. Franklin. Not asking, what can I not do because of my blood type? But, how might I approach challenges in ways aligned with my natural tendencies? This perspective transforms blood type from limiting fate to empowering insight, a clue to how your unique physiological system might best navigate educational, professional, and personal challenges. Not a ceiling on your potential, but a map to your optimal path. The research continues to evolve, with new studies exploring how blood type interacts with other physiological factors to influence cognitive processing and performance patterns. The institutional resistance remains, with funding challenges and publication barriers continuing to limit public awareness of these findings. But for those who understand what flows through their veins, there is opportunity in this knowledge, not to accept limitation, but to pursue optimization. To recognize that success may not be about forcing adaptation to standardized approaches but about finding or creating environments aligned with natural tendencies. To understand that the most significant achievements might come not from working harder within misaligned systems but from finding paths that leverage intrinsic physiological strengths. Your blood type does not determine what you can achieve, but understanding its influence might illuminate how you can most effectively pursue your goals, working with rather than against the physiological tendencies encoded in your veins. In this understanding lies the final insight. Perhaps the greatest untapped human potential is not hidden in technological advancement or educational reform, but in creating systems that honor and leverage our intrinsic physiological diversity, allowing each person to pursue achievement through pathways aligned with their natural processing patterns. The crimson code flowing through your veins may not limit what you can accomplish, but it might illuminate how you can most powerfully pursue your unique potential in a world that has too long ignored the physiological diversity that makes us human.